Oh, I wanted to quickly, quick question. Have we heard from Pat, and is he doing all right?
Yeah, so I heard from Pat the day he got home. I don't know if he got the flowers yet, so we did send him flowers. I haven't heard from that, but he said everything's doing well. The family's doing well. Everyone's happy.
Super.
He's not quite tired yet because he had just gotten home, so he had people helping with Ruth, but now he's at home and it's just him and his wife. So I'm sure he's in zombie mode with new baby. So cool. All right, team topic. So Jose, his head's down on something. He's not going to join today. So there's no issues that need to be covered. So on to the next and very important item. Welcome, Alex. He'll be officially joining Headcount Reset as of next week, but he wanted to join today. So thanks for joining. Alex is going to be helping with automated database migration testing. So
great. I'm really looking forward to that. So thanks for your help on joining the group. I was thinking maybe we can have a call and just catch up on the details on that.
I was thinking the same thing. I figured I'd set up a call with you and with Yanis too in the next week or so.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's do that. Perfect.
And as the rest of the team joins, so I talked to Cross last night, and he's picking up more issues on the primary key migration. And he indicated it would be great to have Heinrich working with him since their time zone's basically the same. And that totally makes sense. So probably have Heinrich working with Cross on the primary key work, and have Ali join Alex on the migration testing framework. So I haven't caught up with Ali yet. I think that's tomorrow, and Heinrich as well tomorrow. So
Ali is joining us?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention, I'm out next week. I'm on PTO. It's my rescheduled spring break. So I was supposed to go out at the end of March, but then all those database issues popped up and I was asked if I could reschedule, and I said yes. So it's looking like I can actually take next week off. So probably shouldn't have said that. Hopefully nothing falls over. So I will be available, but not around. So all right. PG12 upgrade, I don't know. Andreas, I don't know the time. It was a general call from Jerry, and I will find out more details on what's going on Friday. So we can't upgrade the hardware because there's some problems with the L2 and L3 cache, and we're seeing some major performance regressions. So they're just moving forward with an in-place upgrade on the current hardware we have to PG12. There's doing testing on Friday, and then the actual rollout is going to be on Saturday. And there's a PG12 upgrade channel where I asked what the timing was. On Saturday, it is between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. UTC. I will put that here.
I'm starting to have a bit of a problem with the weekend schedule because we've been, I think that request for coverage has been open for a while without details.
Yep.
Sort of expectations, and I'm happy to sort of accommodate for that, but I'm also not keeping up my full weekend for that if possible. So I guess we need most of the coverage for the upgrade window, and perhaps following that, can we find out if there is more expectations towards even Sunday, or
yep.
If it's fine if we know that it's been okay for a couple of hours.
Andrea, I can do the Saturday, but if you can take the Friday. I don't think, do they need us on Friday on the tests?
There was a general request for support, but that's it. It just literally was a general request. It didn't have any specifics on who is going to be needed. There's let me find the issue where it's discussed.
When is Friends and Family Day?
Friday.
This Friday?
Yep.
I can do that so that I will have, so that I keep being on my roll, missing the Friends and Family Day.
No, again, it's not a problem but it's hard to tell when we are going to be expected to be around or what, you know.
I can do the Saturday. On Friday morning, I have. I'm not sure if I have Zoom school, but I have to check.
I don't know if the timeline's in here or not. Nope. So yeah, just I'll ask for more details here. Doesn't look like they're spelled out yet for Friday.
All right.
And we've already talked about the headcount reset swap. So Adam is going to go to Sharding and Heinrich will join with the headcount reset starting Monday. And as mentioned, he'll work with Cross on the primary key migration work. So next request, with the engineering allocation experiment going on, I was asked to clean up our roadmap, do some things to our roadmap, I suppose. So the request was, at a quick glance, they could see the % complete of anything we're working on, which required us to add a weight to all of our issues. And Alex, we don't typically use weights in here in the database team. So I wrote a quick script to just add a weight of 1 to every issue that did not have a weight. So then now you can actually see the percentage of all of the epics that are in our roadmap. So if you saw any changes of me adding weights to anything, that was why. Not much more to talk about.
I think on a separate note, I would like to see clarification on how like the roadmap updates and these things are going to be done going forward with both me and Yannis and you, and what the expectations are, because I am rather confused about what these percentages now mean, quite frankly.
Yeah, the percentages calculated in the roadmap are just open versus closed in the number of issues within the epic. Now that we have a weight of 1.
No, like I understand that. I think it's a more general question as to what the expectations of the engineering organization are regarding the roadmap, who is responsible for the roadmap, what gets updated, what doesn't get updated, because you know, there are other things than updating the roadmap, and I would like to understand what what these percentages mean in terms of like engineering allocation per milestone now, because that is a little bit unclear to me in the implementation of it. But I think this is fine, right? But I think I'm confused as to how we are really impacted in our day-to-day.
Yep. All right. Yeah, I think I can catch up on that later on. All right, Andreas, you got the next topic.
Yeah, I thought we can perhaps have a checkpoint on the primary key migration now that the events table has finished. I put some thoughts in there. This is mostly incomplete, I think, and I don't know if we already have issues covering that. So if we do, then please add to that list. I think there is a few sort of work streams that we can identify, and I think that would help when we have more people coming into the team next week. So we can sort of branch off in different directions. And I think there's at least 2, like one is the sort of preparing for the CI data model, so we can run the migration there, which basically means we need to do multi-column backfills, which Pat has already been working on. I think it's quite, perhaps it's even ready, but we need to pick it up basically. And then the second thing is where we need to be aware of the fact that we need to also release these migrations to self-hosted, and we really need to know that this is a blocker for GitLab COM flipping columns or starting to use those 8-byte primary keys. So as long as we haven't shipped that to self-hosted, we can't use them on .com basically. That's why we need to start early on that. And I think that should be our immediate next step to figure out how do we ship that to self-hosted. Also ship events migration to self-hosted. And in the best case, make that happen in the current milestone, because milestones is what counts basically for self-hosted. And then there is a couple of questions that we need to answer specifically for self-hosted, is like, what is the time when we know that those migrations have completely finished on our self-hosted install? And this is important because it's outside of the typical data migration process that we would have, like where we added this batch migration process. And it doesn't have this checkpointing methodology yet. So there is a few questions that we need to figure out, I think, still for self-hosted.
So,
Fabian.
A couple of questions, because it's the 13th. I think by the 15th, with like Family Friends Day and the PG-12 stuff, I don't know when we will see sort of the like freezes for 13.11. I could see this being actually in the next couple of days, because they will maybe stop deploying to production. So I'm not sure it's realistic to actually ship this by that time, but I don't know. And that's always a little bit, well, it's rather late. So that's number one. And then I think the other one, I think it's a good point. I know anecdotally of issues where customers have, like they upgrade, let's say to 13.11. We start these background migrations, and then they immediately upgrade again, right? And then all of a sudden you are in trouble, right? And so, that is something that that sometimes happens. People like sort of hop around, even though we recommend that they leave time for background migrations to finish and whatnot, right? And I think that's probably the risk here.
That's what I meant with what's the checkpoint for self-hosted, so that we know that everything is finished basically, and there is no existing methodology for that, or even awareness, because this is a whole different process that we're using. It's not tied into the regular background migrations.
Yeah. And to my knowledge, I don't think, like, this is just from the zero downtime upgrades. This may be wrong, but I've heard at least like once or twice when like people ask, like, so how do we know when background migrations are finished? And the answer was always a little bit like, you need to do things manually, right? Or like look at stuff, but there is not your upgrader, like the new package will check and say like, hey, are there any like background migrations still in process? No, I'm not going to actually do this, right? And I think that is probably the issue here.
So can I add my 2 cents there? So first of all, we don't have that process, and this is something we should add at some point. So blocking updates before the migrations are done. So there is a dashboard that admins can check for running migrations and pending migrations. So we have an issue, and I think that before we can move to self-hosted instances, we should update. We have this issue to update the admin dashboard so that the admins can also see this new type of migrations, because those migrations are hidden at the moment. So we know about them, we run them, we monitor them manually, but we don't have a dashboard. And this is very important. If we are going to ship this to end customers, we should make them make available a way for them to see what's running, where is it, and so we have this issue, which is simple, but it's also important to update the admin dashboard with a view of what is running on those new background migrations, what's pending, and also a command and the documentation update so that they can run a command and check it out. I think that because we discussed implementing the multi-column backfill, I think that first we have to implement the migration helpers for finalizing the conversion, so that the next milestone we are done with the events conversion. So I think that this is even more important. No, it's as important as the multi-column backfill. So we have also the finalization of the events conversion. We have to start adding to multi-column backfill because that will update our migration helpers. And maybe we don't want to ship anything before we are pretty much done there. I don't know. We will have to think about that. And then we have to add a couple of updates that we were discussing on making those migrations a little bit more self-reliant, as I think Andreas has written there. Like, for example, finding failed jobs and rerunning them, or rerunning everything at the end or something. I don't know. So those three. So the important question here is whether we want to hurry the initial release of the backfilling migrations. So a discussion we had there with Andreas is whether we want to push all the backfilling migrations to self-hosted instances before 14.0, so that they are forced to run everything before they do the major update. And this is a decision we have to make, and that will push our planning, I think. I don't know, what's your opinion on that?
So to ask the other way around, right? And I think I didn't quite catch what Andreas was getting at earlier. It's like, if we don't actually, if we don't ship these background migrations to self-hosted customers right now, what's the negative impact?
There is one thing that we should strive for, and is basically we should never deviate the database schema in self-hosted versus .com, right? If we hold that up, basically, and we should, we cannot basically switch the primary key in the table on .com because we're facing an overflow event there, without also swapping that in self-hosted. Because we shouldn't change the schema on .com but not do it for self-hosted. That's gonna get us into the woods basically. And swapping things for self-hosted means basically you are dependent on the self-hosted installation to have finished the backfill before you can do that. And now basically going back to .com, that means we can only really start using the int8 primary key on .com once we are sure that all the self-hosted installations have finished the backfilling.
It has been released, not finished.
Yes.
Yeah. So that means that the best case scenario is to release together. So that means that we have started early on .com. That means that we have to catch up on self-hosted. And when I say catch up, I mean release the migrations so that they can catch up, and then release the final migration that will do the swap together at the same time. Otherwise, we will have the schemas will deviate. This is the slightest and simpler way for two schemas to deviate. They will only deviate by the type of an ID, but it is a schema deviation. And it's not only a schema deviation between self-hosted and GitLab.com, it is also schema deviation between old self-hosted and new self-hosted that will use our structure.sql, because all new instances use our structure.sql, which is the single source of truth, which will be updated the moment we do the swap.
It's a bit more than just the data type difference. Like we have triggers in place that are syncing data, and let's not even let's stay out of that if we can.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I think essentially the answer is we should avoid a schema deviation between self-hosted and .com essentially at all cost. right? Because it opens up a very large bucket of pain, of which we have plenty to go around. So, okay, so is it true though that, you know, like for example, the events table, right? This is done-ish, or is that it's well on the way, right? And the runway that we have until this would become a real issue, right, is still like several months out. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's not the case that we have to ship this to our self-hosted release like this release, because that's unlikely to happen, right? But we do have to actually ship it as soon as we can, so that we don't sort of like we've gone ahead on .com. That's great. Now we need to wait here, right? And we have, let's say, 3 months of like time that we can wait. We need to like catch up on self-hosted so that we can make the flip and be in a good state. But we can't like move forward anymore on .com before we do this other work. Is that the correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there is an additional thing there. So the discussion about shipping the initial backfilling migration to self-hosted is whether we want to have it in before 14.0 so that we are sure that everyone in 14.0 has run it, because they have to run everything before they upgrade. But we can assume this even if they do no, downtime updates. So that's the thing there. This is not that much of a deal, as long as we trust that they will execute the background migrations. But it would be nice if we could have the migrations out before 14.0. It will mean that we are sure that everyone has run it before going to 14.0. That's all,
but,
nothing more.
But is it so we have more than one table where we need to do these migrations, right? And we're at events, right? And we have like 7 more, correct? Will we be able to run all of those 7 before 14.0? Because 14.0 is in 2 months, right? And finish all the work that, you know, all of this stuff, you know, to that extent that we can hit 14.0. Feels like to be a little bit sort of cautious, feels optimistic, right? So I think it may be like I'm not sure if 14.0 is even a possibility really, right? So I don't know, right? Correct me, but is it true that if we were to improve our tooling for the backfill migrations on self-hosted, right? It's like, for example, you know, if we had some guardrails, right, that say you can't upgrade right now because we're still backfilling, right? Then we are not necessarily tied to the 14.0 release anymore, right? We just improved the general. Is that true?
I agree with that, yeah. And thinking ahead, we would like to use this migration mechanic even outside of the primary key migrations in the future. So yeah. If we can manage to say that we have a mechanic in place that allows us to reason about minor upgrades, make sure that when you do a minor upgrade that all the previously released migrations are finished, that gets us into a much better situation. And I'm sure we will have migrations in the future where we need that. Basically.
So that sounds like a great project for Alex to start on. No, I'm not kidding, right? It's like, I think what we should do is, I like how the video turns off.
There you go.
Dropped out of the call. Well done,
no, but
Fabian.
I think then isn't
the visual of him paddling away too. So
yes,
good, nice switch.
But isn't the path here essentially to say, okay, we're going to continue, you know, like backfilling all of these tables on .com. We need to do that anyways, right? Because that's the big concern for us. But we are starting to develop this kind of tooling to handle background migrations, you know, for minor versions, essentially as soon as possible, so we can ship these things and we can make sure that they're okay, right? And do that in a minimal fashion to avoid the overall deviation of the schemas. And that's honestly been a pain point for a lot of other things that are unrelated to this specific thing, right? So it's actually quite impactful for our customers, I'd argue, because it would prevent situations where people are doing sort of their upgrade marathon, right? And going from 13.5 to 13.12, but they're only leaving a day in between, right? And then they are getting in the state where migrations haven't completed. So it would actually be a significant improvement for our overall upgrade flow in general, I'd say.
The best case scenario is that, so then we should focus on our core tools and our trust to our tools and our automation and everything. Because the best case scenario will be not to leave self-hosted instances too far behind.
Yes.
So that we start them catching up. Because there are also large instances that may follow our minor releases, and it will be nice not to release a lot of migrations at once for them. This is a minor concern. So yeah, I agree. And as someone wrote there, of course, the fact with what we are discussing now, the migration helpers for finalizing, they will be unlocked the moment we start finalizing also on self-hosted. But we should not wait for long, because if we don't want to deviate, we don't want to start releasing on February, let's say. It will be very February, not February. What's the month?
I was
now?
just thinking, it's like,
That's a long ways away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't want to release on too close to July, August. So it's not like we have a lot of months.
No, but I think like I completely agree. But I think we've come to the conclusion, if I'm not wrong, that we don't have to ship this like in 2 days.
Yep.
You know.
No.
By this release, right? Because I think this that feels unrealistic to me.
No, and this discussion is about the next release. So whether we will be able to release the initial migration, backfilling by migration for events before 14.0.
Yeah, but okay. Yeah. No, I was thinking we were suggesting that we need to like ship something for 13.11, which would give us a three-day window or something.
No. Even the webhook logs migration that is ready, we are not sure if it will make it, to tell you the truth. And even though we would love to make it, to have it there, it's too close. And as you said, with the family and friends day and the Postgres update, where we will lock any migrations from production, yeah, you can never be sure.
So on that one, I asked the question below, like this one, webhook logs, because you had mentioned in the update to the overall epic that this is going to be shipped this week. Yeah. Should we just make the call to push it to next week because of the release, so that we're not trying to cram it in?
No, we are trying to cram it in, and we are reviewing it with Andreas. So I had to add more tools. So this is one more case. I'm still thinking, and I'm going to think out loud here. Is everyone, is there any other company that is using Postgres and partitioning, or are we the first ones? Because we are building all those tools, and finding out things. And so yeah, we had to add new tools for adding foreign keys to partitions, because all Postgres versions up to Postgres 13 have a very specific way of some restrictions for adding foreign keys. Mainly, you cannot add foreign keys as not valid. That means that the moment you add the foreign key, it will lock the parent table and all partitions and try to validate everything, which cannot work in our case for no downtime updates. So we had to add a new helper that goes over all partitions, add foreign keys in each partition, validates them, and then goes up and adds it to the partition table. This is new, and we're still waiting to run tests. We just split that. We also found out that adding the indexes is super expensive for this huge table. because also adding indexes goes to each partition as one index. So I'm just finishing splitting this to 3 MRs, and we will start deploying. Most probably, we will deploy the first one today, and then we will see how it works, and also run tests on the foreign keys, because the foreign keys is something completely new, and we have to be 100% sure that it works.
Yeah, great catch about the foreign key, the partition foreign key stuff.
Yeah, and I even made some tests to try and have them add them manually, but have them turned off, and then add above. And Postgres does not recognize the foreign keys if they are not valid. It's like it tries to add them again, and then you have a name conflict, which is amazing.
And about like other companies or tooling, reminds me of the gem discussion that we had, because what we're building there, what you're adding is basically very useful for anybody using Postgres partitioning, I guess, in Rails.
I swear to you, we will make the best blog post ever about this.
Yeah,
but no one
nice,
will
nice material for sure.
But yeah, it's crazy.
I think there is maybe also a discussion, like I don't know, like in my last company, there was a big legal component to making, like, if we were to release this as a gem, to make sure that this gets, that like if you could release it under an open source license, I think that would be really cool for the community, right? As well, but that usually has, needs to be like signed by people that make more money than me before you can make that decision.
Yeah. The next table, we should catch up with Gregor and start discussing how we're going to approach CI builds. Now we have enough data, so maybe we should also do a live call, Andreas, with and discuss about CI.
And that's the largest table overall, correct?
Those are. This is a family of 17 tables, so we can start small and go big and leave CI builds for the end. But it's a family of, it's a start schema.
Actually, for some of these tables, we need the multi-column support because we have more than one column basically that we need to touch. I was wondering, I don't know off the top of my head, but perhaps CI builds is even a good thing to start with if it doesn't have multi-column stuff. Does it?
It has a foreign key to CI stages, so we cannot start with it. And also it's delicate. Let's start with, there are a few other tables that have foreign keys to CI builds and no problem on their own. There is even a table that has a primary key and 2 foreign keys. So I think, if I recall, I have it in the issues. I think that there is even a table with 3 columns that we have to update.
So the what is it? Push events. The events push. What's the name of the table that's being migrated right now? I forget.
Push event payloads. I think.
Push events payload. So based on the last trajectory of the events table, it's going to take what, a week? Because it's about 30% smaller than the events table.
I think that we can increase it. It behaves way better than events. So
we have a couple days to identify the next one.
But table. We will have to pause. We will have to pause on Friday
for the upgrades. Yeah.
So we will turn it off and then restart maybe on Monday. We're not sure because they want a couple of days and it's normal.
Why is it not considered part of the regular workload that we want to test on the weekend even before Monday starts?
They want to, no, it's the PG12 update. They want to have as few CI cron jobs running when they are going to.
I get that for the time of the upgrade or maybe the few hours following that, but shouldn't we re-enable that on the weekend? Because when we come in the week after, we would enable it during peak hours and sort of figure out that it's not working. Shouldn't we do that on the weekend?
I bet that on Saturday they will run the test suite. And if I remember correctly from the last time, I left the call an hour after the update was done, and they stayed there for 4 hours running tests. So I'm not sure if we can stay there and then enable it at 10 p.m. Saturday. I'm not going to be here.
Who's going to disable it?
I am going to disable it, or you on Friday.
Is there an issue for that?
No.
Is that something that we want to do, or is that a request that we disable it?
Yeah, so they asked us to not run any large migrations, and so they have asked us to not run migrations during the update. And yeah.
Okay, how about we create an issue and discuss what during the update means? I really think we should be enabling that as soon as possible after the upgrade, not only days after it.
You're the man. Go tell Jerry.
Sure.
I have a stand up today, and I'll bring this topic up and find out what the desired timeline is, and I'll at least create the skeleton issue if nobody else does before that meeting, so we can have a discussion on it. Okay.
In any case, I would say though, it feels like it's going overall well, with all of the tooling in place, and I think it's really, really good work. It's just amazing to see the complexities involved in all of that. So thank you both, Andreas and Yannis, for staying on top of that. I think it's really good work.
So when we, I agree with what Fabian said. Sorry, go ahead, Yannis.
Sorry, I've seen a note on updating nodes. Nodes is at 25%. We don't care about nodes.
Yeah, sorry, that was my bad.
Yeah.
I was just
it's there, but let's not anything below 49%. Let's worry about the 5 top tables. The other ones that are at 30 and below, let's think about them afterwards.
I was completely looking at the wrong dashboard, so never mind about nodes.
Okay.
Do we have a candidate for the next one, or is that do we still need to figure that out for the next table and be migrated?
All of them are CI tables, and I think that we can pick a satellite one. And
right. Let's pick one where we don't need the multi-column support. And if there is none, then let's continue with some other table.
There is at least one. There are so many. But I think that we should also catch up with Gregor's and discuss the overall approach.
So we'll need those tables identified before the weekend.
I can do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to just add the proposed migration order in the CI tables epic so that we kind of have it all laid out?
Yeah, I was waiting for us to have a discussion. Yeah.
Yep.
I was planning to group them all under a bigger epic, but I'm leaving them separate. But yeah, we may also have to group them.
Yep.
Will you take that, Yannis?
Which one? Yeah, I will take those.
Perfect. Thanks.
I'm not taking the one that we have to create now because I want to add the final MR and for the webhook logs today before I leave. Andrea, check the index if we can add it today so that we can check how it works.
Oh yeah.
I've sent it to you.
Yep,
and then
thanks.
I will run what I'm worried about. I want to run the foreign key one on Postgres AI and check how it works.
All right, Yannis, you get the next one, planning for 13.12.
So I assume that it's pretty simple, but I will add some notes on the planning issue. Do you have anything from the top of your mind in addition to what we're discussing so that I can add it before we start discussing asynchronously?
I think the only thing and excuse maybe I'm behind, but if we have to start thinking about the tooling for bringing these migrations to self-hosted, that should also probably be mentioned. I'm not sure if that's already in there.
Yeah, I agree. And it should be scheduled for 13.12.
Yes.
I will do so.
Yeah, we don't even have a 13.12 planning issue.
I'll create it.
I mean, it's fine, right? It's like this, I think it's going to be continuation of what we're doing, right? And there was so much operational load that it should be a pretty quick affair.
Yep. All right. We got about 5 minutes or so. So Andreas, you got all of the closed items on the board?
We don't need to go through that. Other than the fact that I wanted to mention that I think we should have more insight into the migration status with metrics and all that. I hope we can add that this week, but this is in flight basically.
Is there anything else we need to do with Adam's issue on the?
I will check and close it.
Okay. Andreas, you got a couple items in staging.
Yeah, that was an interesting one, basically affecting development, where we had a web migration, basically the backfill migration, basically that was guarded, so it was only running in development and on .com. And we basically have a check for that. So if things are on development or you're in .com, run the migration basically. Unfortunately, that excluded the testing environment. So basically, this never ran on CI, and it did cause some problems down the road from that. So that has been fixed basically, or I think we merged it just today. But the follow-up question is like, I think we should always make sure that whatever we have with guards in place for running things on .com only or stuff like that, it should always run in testing as well. I don't see any reason why we would want to exclude stuff in testing. So that's a follow-up to that.
Yeah. I also had recently an MR where they had a check for .com only, not even a dev.com or whatever, and they had a typo there. So it never ran. And the .com check was not even running in their dev environment.
Like a typo in the code part, but it never gets triggered.
Yeah, and I've seen it, and I was like, oh, and I tested, and I got the error, and I was like, we should be careful with that.
Yeah, and the other one is something I ran into. It's low impact, but there's an index missing, I think.
Yeah. Apologies, quick thing, just because it pops into my mind. The CTEs for Postgres 12. I know that Geo had a couple of CTEs, but we don't need to worry about that, right? That was taken care of.
We included them. So I pinged, and I don't remember who reviewed the MR and gave the thumbs up.
Yeah, just I don't want to be ended.
No. I linked your initial comment on some issue
yes,
when I pinged the team.
Deep dark crevices of my mind, right?
Yeah. I was remembering about it.
Database testing, the only thing I wanted to mention is database maintainers are using it. I would like to take the next step and basically allow everybody to use it, but not automatically. So you would have to go in basically and run a job, but basically everybody can do this. So that we are not basically overwhelmed all of a sudden with this. I have prepped the changes for that. It's very simple. I would want to merge it, announce it, but also have a bit of documentation for everybody to use it or how to use it. So that's going to happen maybe this or next week sometime. And the other thing is the writing about the read mostly pattern that's in review.
Doing a quick see here. I'm not sure what's going on. I've removed Adam from these issues a few times, but he keeps sticking.
So if an issue is open and I have the issue open and you have the issue open and you remove Adam or you make a change in labels, and then without refreshing, I do a different change, like adding a label, because we cast there everything, I'm putting him back. And it happens a lot in MRs, which is a problem.
I'm at the moment still confused about the reviewer workflow. I don't understand it at all. As in, you know, why we have a reviewer feature, right? And then we remove reviewers after we've assigned reviewers, and then they're gone, and it's exactly the same functionality as before. It confuses me, but I'm behaving myself. I'm just following the process.
Yeah, it's confusing. Yeah, I understand why we remove the reviewer. So I remove myself. Otherwise, I will not know how many requests I have. So always, if I am assigned or a reviewer, I just remove myself after I'm done. Otherwise, I will have something like 20 there. I won't know what to check. But
for sure, but
reviewer and assignee. Yeah, works more or less. The idea there was that you have as an assignee the DRI. So I am the DRI for my MR and maybe somebody, me and Andreas, let's say. And then I have also reviewers. I have Alex and I have a backend maintainer as a reviewer, which will pop in and then pop out and then we can continue.
Oh, sorry for derailing. I agree with you, but it's like for me, the value of the reviewer feature was more that I look at an emerged MR, right? And I can see who was the DRI who did it and who like approved it, right? And it's like you can see like these nice little 3 green things and went through all of the motions, right? That was great, right? Because it answered the questions like who actually ended up reviewing this, right? But now we're removing it because we're not removing the MR from the list of assigned, like from your like stack when it gets approved, right? And that feels like not the right solution for the problem, but that's just me.
Yeah. And we also
we'll reach out to the product manager and try to like get it solved.
Yeah, I can say that I never have this nice one there that Greg has. It will be the dream.
That's funny. All right, I think we covered everything in review. Anything to cover in workflow and dev that we haven't already talked about? Not really. Yana submitted the first. All right.
Yeah, this is the first
version of the MR. Yep.
Yeah, it needs more updates. But we have to focus on the webhook logs now.
Yep.
First, and then.
That's it for the agenda, and we are at time. Any other topics you want to cover today? Nope. All right. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Right.
See y'all online.
Thanks.